The following is a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of 640 Toronto.
And good Sunday morning to everyone out there. Thank you so much for making us part of your weekend. As always, I am Chris Creston, and I am the radio guy, but I'm joined by Kelvin Rampersad, who is the money guy. Kelvin, the money guy, is the guy that you want to get in contact for all of your money life questions, and that's why his website is askkelvin.ca. That's ask, KELVIN.ca. You can book an appointment through his website. You can listen to past shows. You can do all sorts of stuff on his website, askkelvin.ca, or you can give him a call, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. Why plan? Because so much of this is just about planning, thinking ahead, looking forward to where you want to be, and then making a plan to make sure that you can get there. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Good morning, Chris. How is life treating you?
Good. You know what? It's a sunny day and it's supposed to be warm. So, for a lot of us, it's a good excuse to get outside, maybe do some gardening that that you didn't do. Stuff you're looking out your window and thinking, I guess I probably should have done something about those leaves in the fall. First winter north of the city since I grew up in Richmond Hill, but now I've moved even further north. After living downtown for years, and I decide, okay, this is the time of year that it stops snowing, and that no, it is not. Why did I move all the way up to the frosted tundra here? But it's okay. Right. I think that the patio furniture weathered the storm okay, and it'll be nice to actually sit on today, maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
A lot of stuff can happen that you're not expecting, like a random April snowstorm. But other things can happen that you're not expecting. It happens in the market. And if you're not paying attention for a day, maybe you miss something and you think, all right, everything's been fine for the last week. It's a Friday. I'm going to sit back and relax and not do anything. And then you talk to your buddy Kelvin on Sunday morning and he says, oh, there's a rough day on the market. Wait, what was it? I stopped paying attention for a day, and that's what happened. What happened this week in the market, Kelvin?
Yeah, so Friday was one of the worst days since October 2020. The market dropped about 980 points. Reason being, interest rates are going to go up quicker than they thought in the U.S. because inflation is getting out of hand, right? We're back to 1991 with inflation, which is about 6.5%. So people haven't experienced that. So to cool inflation down, they got to raise rates at some point in time. So they haven't done it in so long. So they gradually got to get it going. So it spooked the markets. When you look at your money, right? You look at the Dow Jones and the S&P, it's down about 7%. You look at the NASDAQ, it's down 13%. And our Canadian market, however, is up 3%. So if you're thinking of if you're thinking of the future, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, what does it matter now? In fact, what matters now is maybe, get some money in the markets if you don't have it. If you have some, if you don't, maybe borrow some. You're talking about a plan in the beginning of the show, right? As most journey in life, it's important to have a game plan, right? I believe, successful financial journeys begin with a real comprehensive plan and an estate roadmap, right? Whether you're accumulating wealth or looking to redistribute during retirement, it's really important to know where you are today and more importantly, where you want to be tomorrow. So how will you get there? So the purpose of financial planning is to clarify your objectives and set some realistic timetable for meeting them. So I think that
makes
really
so much sense in so many things, right? And we all sort of, so many of us watch sports and we'll say, we want our team to win the championship. But you know what? There's a lot of smart people who are working behind the scenes, sometimes some of them smarter than others, to try and get the team there. And they have to set realistic goals and realistic plans. And sometimes they surprise you and then you wind up seeing a team that's not ready. But other times you wind up getting lucky. But I think with our money life, we don't want to just get lucky, right? We need a game plan.
No,
We need
yeah.
a plan for succession, and we want to make sure that our families are doing as well as possible. And we're not about to leave it up to luck. And I think if you don't plan, that's sort of what you're doing.
Well, you don't want to be that Monday morning quarterback, right? And look back and say, "Ah, man, wish I'd have done that." When you think about it, 74% of Canadians live with debt, right? 13% have a lot. 25% they say have a little debt, and only one quarter of Canadians live without debt. So when you think about that, where do you belong in those statistics? Where do you belong? They're saying that the average Canadian, CIBC, I guess, said the average Canadian has about $185,000 in their RSPs. People that are over 50, right? So you got to think about that for a second. You have 100, let's call it $200,000 to round it off. When you're 55, when you're 65, it's 400,000, and when you're 75, it's $700,000, right? So what happens now? I'm 71. I have to start taking my RSP out. I'm forced to take it out. So what happens? Well, I have 600,000 in my RSP. I got to take out 6% of that. So now what happens? Well, I might get clawed back for my old age and so on and so forth. That's why I thought about this topic, the drawdown era, because many Canadians did a great job of saving money in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they hit their 60s now, and it's like, okay, I got all this money, but I'm so overweighted in RSPs. What do I do? Because when I hit 71, man, I got to start taking money out. So the baby boomer generation is the generation that pays all the bills, it looks like. They tax the most, they save the most, their houses are worth the most. Everything they got went up in value, right? So now they're in their 70s, and the government's thinking, okay, well, now you got to stake in your RSP out. So baby boomers are born between 1946 and 1964. So depending where you are there. The Gen X people are born between 1965 and 1980, and millennials are 81 to 96. So there's where we are in perspective. So the big bulk of people are baby boomers. In fact, 1,000 Canadians will turn 65 every year going forward. So it's really funny when you look at these statistics. I look at a lot of these statistics and see, like, where do we fall? Where do I fall? Where does my clients fall?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to us in the future? And again, by 2026, which is only 4 years away, right? Yeah, 4 years away. People age over 55 will control 72% of the wealth.
Wow.
So that's in a short amount of time. So if you're in your 50s, you got a lot of thinking to do about, your mom and dad might pass away and transfer the wealth to you. The capital gains tax that will be paid on properties they may have. So a lot of things going on, right? So I think we, as advisors, really have to change and shift the way that we see things. So many of us have been in the business for quite a while. We were accumulating people's money, making sure that they save appropriately, save 10% of your income, that kind of stuff, and plan for the future. Well, the future is here for most of them. So we, I think, have to shift the way we think about the way our clients are and where are they going to be in the next 10 years when they are 70 years old or 80 years old. So a lot of fundamental things will happen to people. Career change. We start thinking about retiring, or we're retired already. Do we collect our CPP now, or do we delay it till we're 65 or 70? Do we take our old age or delay? So a lot of those things that we really never thought about as advisors, because all we thought about was the stock markets going up and down and up and down. Well, many people now will have to risk their money. So what do we do, right? How do we sit down with people and chart out where they're heading to? where they're going to be in the
And
next
and
five,
when you
10
think
years.
about the demographic information you were talking about, Kelvin, and how much of a percentage of the population is sort of in this block, then we
Hmm.
know a lot of you listening right now are in that block right now, and it's time to start thinking about that. And if you haven't been, because if your advisor is guilty of spending most of their time thinking about accumulation, so are you. And as the client and as the person who's accumulating that money and planning for retirement, you've been in this mode of working and storing peanuts for the winter, and now it's time to do something with it. And you got to remember where they're all buried, first of all,
Yeah.
but then you've got to figure out how you're going to draw them down in a leisurely way, draw down your investments in a way that's not going to cost you a fortune in taxes. And that's a
Exactly.
huge thing. And you don't want a bunch of clawbacks on your CPP or anything else. Like, so, that's why you need to have someone like Kelvin in your corner. You need someone who's been there, who's had clients retire and knows how to make this drawdown work. And I think that, like you said, Kelvin, with the demographics changing the way they are, I think it's incumbent on so many people to start to think about their money in a
Hmm.
different way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I say, we as advisors have to kind of, in my opinion, anyhow, we've got to go beyond the client's portfolios and investments. Yes, it's important to make sure that when we have dates like Friday, that the clients are protected. You call them and have a chat or whatever. But we have to start asking clients, I believe, about how are they living. Where will they live? Maybe they want to sell their house and move. I don't know, wherever they want to go, right? What if a spouse dies or becomes ill? What happens then? So we need to get to the core of the clients and care about them rather than the markets. I'm not saying that we don't care about them, but maybe spend more time wondering about those things and manage that rather than trying to manage the stock markets that we have no control over. So I think we need to do a lot of forward thinking as advisors and really put that into perspective about what's my taxes going to be like when I'm 65, when I'm 70. What if I live till the average person now would live, man, I guess would live till 88, 90, around there. So what happens to the 90-year-old Calvin? Like what's he gonna have? Where would he be? So maybe after the break we'll try and talk about that kind of stuff as we move on.
Perfect. I think there's so many people out there who are listening and probably in that exact position. And if you've got an advisor, give him a call. If you don't, give Kelvin a call. If you need a second opinion, give Kelvin a call. The number is 416-457-7526. That's a number to get a hold of Kelvin, the money guy, 416-457-7526. 416-457-PLAN. And don't forget, you can always visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can book a date and time of your choice for a free 30-minute call with Kelvin. Just click that schedule a call link in the top right-hand corner. That's askkelvin.ca. More of your life, your money, continuing here on 640 Toronto.
You're listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of 640 Toronto.
And good Sunday morning to everyone out there. Thank you so much for making us part of your weekend. I am Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the money guy. You can always reach out to Kelvin on his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Just a wealth of knowledge and a great guy to know. And when he talks about this stuff, he's talking about it from the heart. He has been spending decades working as a financial advisor, working with clients, watching them, accumulate their wealth, watching them retire, and watching them, go on to live happy retirements. And part of that is making sure that you've got a great plan and making sure that you're looking ahead and knowing sort of where you're going. You can't predict all the ups and downs of the stock market, but you can predict you can plan ahead to make sure, based on your own life and based on your own needs, where you can go and the moves that you can make to protect yourself from any of those ups and downs that could throw off your plan.
Right. Well, the COVID, as you know, has changed everything, right? In all of our lives, not just money wise, but everything else. So change is very important. It's like Darwin's theory, right? Those who are more adaptable to change will survive. So we need to look at where we are in our lives. Typically, if we're in our 60s, is what I'm saying. Not that it doesn't matter if you're in whatever 40s, whatever. But it seems like the people in their 60s are have 10 years to figure this out. How much I have in my RSPs? Do I start taking money out now? Do I pay a little bit of the tax now? The traditional thoughts, a decade ago was to, defer RSP withdrawals and allow you to compound your money tax free, right? Well, that might not want to be a good idea anymore. I'm not saying go withdraw your RSP money. Be careful how you do it because there's a lot of tax liabilities. But people that have quite a bit might want to say to themselves, listen, let me start taking some money out of my RSP now and pay a little bit of the tax and maybe dump it into a TFSA and take the next 10 years and make back that money and grow it in a tax-free environment. So those are the kind of things that I think we need to start looking after. Remember, the typical person today that's 65 plus never really grew up with the tax-free savings. It only started in 2009. So they
That's
didn't
right.
really
So it's
have,
only a small part of their plan, if at all.
yeah, yeah. So because they didn't really, and many people still don't understand it. I mean, it's been around since 2009, and many people still don't understand how powerful the tax-free savings is, right? So you might want to have a look and say, how much room do I have in my tax-free savings? Um, maybe I want, like I say, maybe I want to take some out of the RSP, pay the tax now, and let the money grow over the next 10, 15 years in my tax-free savings account where I don't pay any tax. Maybe if you're 65 years, maybe wife and husband or spouse is 65, maybe you want to start taking more out of your RSP so because you can income split when you're that age, right? So for example, one spouse income is low, one is high, maybe take more out and split the income up and reduce the tax. You can't pay no tax, but you can reduce it. So I think tax planning on a go forward is really more important than the markets going up and down. The stock market, over the last 50 years crashed 29 times, yet people still made lots of money. We are in the second largest bull market there is, right? It started around 2009, 2010. Is it coming to an end? I don't know. Nobody seems to know. So maybe if you're 60 today, knowing the next 10 years, we don't know if it's going to come to an end or not. Well, maybe you want to start looking at some of the old-fashioned annuity things where you're guaranteed certain returns and so on. So maybe what is old is new again. There's all these hybrids of investments that when interest rates were high 20, 30 years ago, it disappeared, but now it's coming back. It's coming back to the center. So maybe you want to sit with your advisor and look at those things and say to myself, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I don't know what's going to happen over the next 10 years. So maybe I want to take some of my money and put it in the principal guaranteed things where no matter what happens, I got a bit of both. Not all your money, but some of it. I talk about these GMWB, these guaranteed withdrawal plans. Maybe look into that and see if you're at the appropriate age to do it. Maybe you're not. I have no idea. So I think maybe decumulation should be, if you're in your 60s or 70s, should be really the focus and seeing where would I be? Because remember, if you have $500,000 in your RSP, you really only have 250 because half of it belongs to the government, right? So I'm not saying RSPs
Right.
are a bad thing. I'm saying you have to use it carefully. That's all, right?
And you find yourself in that position. I'm sure a lot of people listening would find themselves in that position right now or approaching it and thinking, you know what, maybe you're in your late 50s, maybe, you're coming up to this period of time. Are there things that you should you stop with RSPs? Or I guess it depends on what your retirement plan is through work and everything like that. If
Right.
you've got like a great job with a great retirement plan, you're probably more and more likely to say, forget those RSPs at this point, because I'm going to be making enough of an income to worry about income taxes when I'm retired.
Yeah, I think you need to, before you make those decisions, I think you need to sit down with your advisor and do a little bit of tax planning, a lot of thoughts to say, okay, should I should I load up on RSPs, or should I buy a little bit? What should I do if I have $10,000? Do I put all 10 in an RSP, or do I put 10 in an RSP and 10, I mean 5 in an RSP or 5 in a TFSA? I don't know. So you really need to sit and take a holistic approach, I would imagine, with your money. See, for me, I'm not a portfolio builder. I don't really build portfolios and things like that. That's up to the fund managers or whoever, bank or mutual fund or whatever you may pick. Let them do it. My job is to sit down with you and kind of listen to what you say, and formulate some type of plan for you, either before retirement or into retirement, and make sure that you're doing everything appropriately. And more importantly, review all the stuff that you've done, right? Everything changes, and you need to do those things. So even if you're on the cusp of retirement, the Gen Xers, right? Those people 45 to 55 to 55 or so, right? Only 32% of them, 32% of them have nothing saved. So those people, we need to sit down and say to do the opposite of decumulation. We have to start accumulating money, right? Um, Drilling down on some people that have too much in the RSP, or don't have enough money. What do we do? So everything is all relative to you. There's statistics that say
Right.
women, for example, 22% of women have a formal retirement plan. Most of them don't. And I guess it's because, things have changed the way, the work environment is. And women don't really spend a lot of time planning their retirement. And they're gonna control quite a lot of money because, us guys die before them. So they'll control a lot of the money.
Well, that's
So
the thing too, and they've got a little bit more racetrack ahead of the women, of the men out
yeah,
there
they
in their
live
lives.
longer.
So you got to
Yeah.
plan to live longer and plan to save longer as a
Hmm.
result. So that's got to be part of your plan as well, as you look forward and you start to think, well, you know what, I'm uh, in this position where I plan on continuing to live.
Hmm.
I plan on
Yeah.
living longer, but I need to make sure that I've got everything, you know, put away and in the right spot to make sure that I'm safe for that retirement plan. And if you find yourself in that position where maybe you are, a Gen Xer and you've been putting stuff off, and along with that big pile of honeydew things on your list that you haven't gotten around to doing at home, one of them is also putting aside some money for retirement, and you find yourself, it was at 32% of Canadians who don't have anything saved.
See,
It's not too late. It's time to just sort of think, we've been talking about decumulation. It's time to start to think about accumulation of some of that money so that you can spend the next 10 years really focusing on making sure that the rest of your life is going to be comfortable.
well, that's what I say. Figure out what you want. Live your life forward and your money life backwards. Figure out what you need when you're 65, and go from there. No, after the break, we'll talk about your old age and should you put it off, should you take it, how it's gonna, your risk is gonna affect it, things like that.
Awesome. All that coming up here on Your Life, Your Money. Don't forget you can visit askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Click on that schedule a call link to book a date and time of your choosing so you can chat with Kelvin about your decumulation, about your accumulation, about anything that's going on with your money life so that you can start to set your plan. Speaking of plans, you can call Kelvin anytime at 416-457-7526. That's 416 457 plan. You can give Kelvin a ring and chat about what your goals are, where you want to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years, and then start putting together a plan that will get you there in a comfortable way so that you can continue to live your life today, but be planning for the future. That's what it's all about. Your Life, Your Money continues here on 640 Toronto.
You're listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of 640 Toronto.
And good Sunday morning to everyone out there. Thank you so much for making us part of your weekend. As always, I am Chris Creston, and I am the radio guy, but I'm joined by Kelvin Rampersad, who is the money guy. Kelvin, the money guy, is the guy that you want to get in contact for all of your money life questions, and that's why his website is askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. You can book an appointment through his website. You can listen to past shows. You can do all sorts of stuff on his website, askkelvin.ca, or you can give him a call, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. Why plan? Because so much of this is just about planning, thinking ahead, looking forward to where you want to be, and then making a plan to make sure that you can get there. You find yourself, again, behind the eight ball thinking, I wish I did it earlier. I could have done that. Mm-hmm. And I should have done this. And you don't want to be in that position, as so many of us find ourselves in so many aspects of our lives. And, having a plan and making the right goals is all part of that. And you can get started by calling Kelvin, the money guy, and you can always give him a call privately. I'll throw out the number at the end of the segment to talk to Kelvin privately. But don't forget to visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca, and you can schedule a call there. And Kelvin, that's sort of what we've been talking about, is those decumulation years, the drawdown era. Those of you who are listening who have been diligently saving and then thinking, now all of a sudden, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do with all this? How do I get it out in a way that's not going to now cost me more? The whole point was saving money, and you're putting money in your RSPs and getting a refund, and that, wait a minute, I got to owe some of that back. This is all part of that drawdown, making sure that you're saving that money, but also making sure that you're getting it back in a way that's not going to cost you a fortune.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you were saying, it's like those should have, could have people. We all know them, right? They're really popular at parties. I should have done this.
Mine's in the mirror. So
I should have done this. I could have done this. Don't be a should have, could have, Figure out things that you want to do, Chris, we're in the investment business, right? But it's a human business first rather than investment. It's really finding out, how do people feel? What's their behavior like? What are they, we've always been taught to just buy our speeds. Well, what if we didn't? What if we paid some of the tax today? I don't know. And those are some of the things you need to sit with your advisor and figure out, depending where you are in your age, in your life, in your lifestyle. One of the problems that I find with when people come and see me is that they're older. The question is, do I take my CPP now or do I leave it? Right? And my old age. So many times, I think the sweet spot for CPP in Canada is about 63. And again, that depends. When I say these things, I'm just generalizing. So it doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to sit down with your advisor and figure it out.
If it's your 63rd birthday, don't just go out and make the call right now. You got to sit down with your advisor and make the plan.
And say to yourself, okay, depending how much money, and I'll use an example of, say I have $400,000 in my RSP, right? And now I'm 71, and I've got to take about 6% of that out, 6% of that out, right? So that's like 24,000. So is that going to push me in the next tax bracket? Meaning, will I get clawed back with my old age? The clawed back is around $74,000. So will that put me there? And if it is, well, I better do some steps today to avoid that down the road. Now, sometimes there's nothing you can do because it's just you're really great at saving money in your RSP, right? So there's nothing you can really do. But sometimes there's things you can do. So don't wait until you get there to, it's never too late, but if you wait and wait and wait, it might be too late to do some strategic planning. So it's all about what you want to do. It's all about you. It's all about your life. It's different than mine, right? See, Canada has a very progressive tax system. It's tiered, right? So the more you make, the more they take. So you want to kind of adjust your income for down the road when there's no more job, right? And those kind of things have to be done now. So to plan your retirement, your income actually, your money during retirement, you got to start like at least 5 years before, you got to look at how much I accumulated. What kind of debt am I taking into my retirement? You know, and I always say we live in the best country in the world. We have a lot of social things that we get, old age, CPP, healthcare, that kind of stuff. So take some time and figure out what are you going to look like down the money wise anyway, what you're going to look like down the road. What would my potential income be? You know, what if a spouse passes away and their CPP, I get piece of it now, or the surviving spouse get a piece. Is that going to put me in the next bracket? So maybe after the break, I'll kind of roll down some steps for simple planning into retirement and out of retirement.
Perfect. And that is such a perfect thing to look at when you are thinking about people who are in that position. That's coming up here as we continue. Don't forget, you can give Kelvin a call at 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And you can visit that website, askkelvin.ca, askkelvin.ca. Your life, your money, continuing here on 640 Toronto.
You're listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of 640 Toronto.
And this is Your Life, Your Money. I'm Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the money guy, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. He's one of the top financial advisors in the country, and he's just an overall great guy, and it's great to have him here on Sunday mornings to talk. You can always book a appointment to talk to Kelvin at askkelvin.ca, askkelvin.ca. And we've been talking about the drawdown era, the drawdown period of your life, when you're thinking about your retirement and it's getting closer. And you find yourself thinking, all right, I've been spending so much time, and all of my effort has been in making sure I've got the RRSPs. Maybe you've got TFSAs, and you're thinking now, wait a minute, well, how do I gain access to that, and how do I do it in a way that it doesn't cost me? Because no one wants. We're okay with paying taxes, but no one wants to pay too much. No one wants to wind up paying so much in taxes that they don't have enough to eat or to live the comfortable retirement that they wanted, and stay in the house that they raised their kids in and watch the grandkids run around in the backyard and all of those things that you want to do, whatever it happens to be. Or maybe it is retiring to some place where you don't just wait for a nice 20-degree Sunday in April to go golfing. It's all year round or something like that. It depends on your life and the goals that you have, but that's why it's important to have someone like Kelvin on your side, right?
Well, yeah, it's funny, Chris, when people are in their 40s and 50s, they typically have two advisors, typically a bank advisor and themselves. Not that the bank advisors, not to pick on banks and things like that, but they're very limited in their scope of what they do, in the sense that they sell you a product. I think as you get old, and what I see is as people get older and they get into their 60s, they tend to switch to one advisor. And that person looks at their whole world. They looks at their CPP, their old age, they look at their RSPs, their whatever they may have, their pensions, and they come up with a formula to say, let's take so much money out at whatever age right now. If you make $20,000 or you make 40,000, you're the same tax bracket in Canada. So why don't you look at that and say, okay, if I got a lot of money wherever it may be, let me start taking some out now. Let me don't wait till they force me to take money out. You don't have to wait till you're 71 to set up a RIF. You could do it now. You don't have to take your whole portion of your $400,000 and RIF it. You could take 100,000 or 50, I don't know, whatever falls into your lifestyle. So a lot of things that we never really thought about that we have to think about now. So we really need to do some forward thinking. Like I always say, the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror. So we really need to look forward to where we're heading to and set some, there's 4 steps to a simple plan for now and into retirement. The one thing is lay the foundation, you know, what do I want? Where do I see myself living? Selling my house. I don't know, whatever you would lay the foundation for what you want. Great found like building a house, right? The next thing is, determine how much you need. So fast forward your life 10 years from now or five, whatever, however old you are, and see what my CPP is, my old age. Go on to Service Canada and set up an account, and it'll tell you what your CPP will be when you're 60, 61, that kind of stuff, right? Let's figure out what your pension is at work if you have one. So let's say, okay, this is how much money I'm guaranteed to get from pensions and so on. So what's my shortage? What am I going to be short? And figure out what you need to do now to get that when you get there. Develop a plan for yourself. Like I say, no journey begins without a plan. We can't just go. I guess we could now with GPS, but you can't just pick up yourself and go anywhere, right? Without having
Right.
some life plan, right?
The
So it's the
GPS
same
will
thing
count
for
as a
you,
plan. We can keep the GPS in there. Yeah.
you know? And I think, like you said before, the should have, could have. Well, determine what you want, develop your plan, and take action to do it. Take the appropriate action to get you to where you want to go. It's that simple, to be honest with you. I think we complicate our lives by listening to friends and family and this one and Google. Don't ask Google. You ask Calvin,
Exactly.
right?
Askkelvin.ca. And I think that's it. You mentioned talking to friends. I think a lot of friends will needlessly complicate the way that they do things in order to sound smarter than they are.
Right.
And
Yeah, exactly.
here's this really fancy maneuver I did to make sure that I could get some money. And you know what? Maybe you're seeing people online and they're doing some Bitcoin and things like that, and you're
Hmm.
thinking, should I get involved in that? Maybe it's part of it, but the thing is that I always sort of look at on any of this stuff is we don't know what we don't know, and I think that that's what
Right.
complicates things the most for people, and what scares people into inaction. Right? They don't make a plan because they don't know what they don't know. And when you've got someone, let Kelvin be your GPS, right? Let Kelvin be your Google.
And
Don't
that's
ask
yeah.
Google. And you find yourself in a better position because he knows what you don't know. Just listing out what you just did, Kelvin, I already started thinking, well, that's kind of simple. This daunting
Mm.
task of trying to figure out what I need to do on a daily basis to save for my retirement or to decumulate what I have saved has actually, it sounds really simple because you broke it down. You know
Right.
what sort of pitfalls lay ahead, and that's why it's important to have someone like yourself in our corners to make sure that we can navigate these waters with a guide who can tell you, what you don't know.
It's important for people to know where they are today and where they want, and more importantly, where they want to be tomorrow. So if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there, right? So
Right.
you really need to lay down this foundation for yourself. And it doesn't matter what age you are, right? It doesn't matter where you are in life. Money planning starts now. Put pen to paper, figure out what you want to do, and if you have an advisor, go deal with them. If you don't have one, give me a call because it's your life. You could either choose to maneuver it on your own or get somebody to help you. Don't worry about cost. I hear a lot of people going on about fees and things. You know what? Make that the least of your worry. you should worry about the tax man, because that's where your fees are going to go. Regardless of how you invest your money, that guy is going to take a lot of your money. So do some tax planning and have some thought process for where you want to be down the road, and you'll be fine. Don't let life pass you by.
Yeah, and another thought, just a last thought on fees, is you've got the right financial advisor in your corner, you're going to be making more than those fees are anyway. So It makes up for it.
Sure.
No, Kelvin, another great show here. Any final words as we sign off?
I say people go and enjoy their Sunday. It's going to be really nice and warm. And sit down and put some thought to where you want to be down the road, and you'll be good. Give me a call or sit down with your advisor.
Perfect. Thanks again for another great show, Kelvin. Very informative. And, again, if you're in that position, you're thinking about those drawdowns and you're not sure where to start, you don't know what you don't know, give Kelvin a call, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN, or you can visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. Thank you so much for listening to Your Life, Your Money, and stay tuned to 640 Toronto.
The preceding was a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of 640 Toronto.